Welcome, dear listeners. Tonight, let your thoughts drift gently as we take you on a peaceful journey. This is a space for calm, for quiet moments, and for the kind of stories that settle your heart and slow your breath. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes if you wish, and allow the world to soften around you. Now, let's begin with tonight's story. Today's story is titled Starborn: The Legacy of Flame. Chapter I: The Fall Beneath the Stars. Long ago, before the kingdoms of men rose and fell like waves, there existed a city of unimaginable splendor, Thralion, the crown of the East. Its spires reached toward the heavens, and its walls, carved from moonstone, shimmered under sun and starlight alike. The people of Thralion believed their city eternal. They were wrong. Among the city's warriors was a young commander named Calmvoice, son of the high priestess Celera and the fallen star god Bedtime. Though only 30 winters old, Calin had fought in 100 battles, his blade a whisper of death in the wind. But it was not war that would bring Thralion low, it was deceit. After a decade-long siege, the invaders from the west, the cruel Asgardians, suddenly vanished, leaving behind a singular gift, a massive statue carved from black wood in the shape of a griffin, hollow and silent. Thralion scholars debated it, priests prayed over it, but the people, tired of war, celebrated it as a tribute of surrender. Calin, ever cautious, felt unease twist in his gut. "The stars are quiet tonight," he muttered to his brother-in-arms, Maelric, as revelers danced in the streets. "They watch in silence when blood is about to be spilled." That night, he dreamed. A pale figure stepped through the mists of his mind, a woman cloaked in white flame. Her face was shadowed, her voice a thunderous whisper. "Run, Starborn. The flame that bore you cannot save you from the tide that comes." Calin awoke to screams. From within the statue, the Asgardians emerged like phantoms. Their blades flashed red under torchlight as they slaughtered gatekeepers and opened Thralion's gates. The city fell not in battle, but in celebration. Its final breath, choked in laughter, turned to horror. Calin fought through the burning halls of the palace, searching for his family. Celera, his mother, was slain upon the sacred altar. Maelric had vanished into the fire. Only one remained, Elian, his 6-year-old sister, her eyes wide with terror as Calin lifted her into his arms. Through smoke and chaos, they fled. He carried her through secret passages, once used by priests to reach the river. As they emerged beneath the western aqueduct, Calin looked back at his city, his home. Towers collapsed like dying gods, and the great spire of knowledge burst into flame, sending scrolls of ancient wisdom fluttering into the night sky like ash birds. Behind them, a lone figure followed astray, a young healer sworn to Calin's family. "There are others," she gasped. "Survivors. Scattered among the tunnels. But the river? It's our only path now." They boarded a narrow skiff beneath the old bridge as the waters turned crimson. As they drifted away, Calin swore an oath under the dying light of Thralion, "I will find the land of the prophecy. I will forge a new home, or I will fall beneath the stars." But fate had other plans. A dark raven circled above them, its cry echoing like an omen. It was the symbol of the Asgardian seer priests, those who spoke with forgotten gods and conjured storms from silence. If they knew Callan lived, they would hunt him across land and sea. And so began the exodus. The skiff floated downriver toward the unknown, guided by moonlight and the haunting song of distant spirits. In the heart of the vessel sat a lion, cradling a shard of her mother's broken scepter. Her whisper carried over the wind, "Brother, will we be safe?" Callan didn't answer. His eyes turned to the stars above, to the constellation of Veter, the warrior star that no longer shone. He knew what the vision had meant. He was no longer a son of Thoralion. He was the last of its blood. And the world would come to fear his name. Chapter 2, The Whispering Dream. The river carried them onward, silent and swift, threading like a dark ribbon through the wounded land. Night stretched long and bitter, and Callan barely closed his eyes. Every time he did, he saw the burning of Thoralion, or worse, the blank gaze of his mother on the temple floor. By dawn, the river forked into the weeping marshes, a haunted place shrouded in mist and legend. Locals spoke of spirits who sang to the dead, drawing them back into the waters. A lion shivered as the boat glided through reeds that whispered without wind. A stray, pale and hollow-eyed, finally spoke. "You haven't slept. You need to rest." "I can't," Callan said, his voice a rasp. "They're hunting us. I can feel it." He wasn't wrong. Behind them, miles upriver, the shadow-marked, elite trackers of the Asgardian priesthood had already begun pursuit. They moved like wraiths, silent, cloaked, unrelenting. But something else haunted Callan's mind, the dream. It returned to him in fragments, like shattered glass. The flame woman from the night of the fall, her words clearer this time, "To the west, beyond the salt and sun, lies your unburnt path. Seek the pale mountain, and the star of morning shall guide you." The prophecy. Celera had spoken of it when he was a child, half joking, half terrified. The Starborn must fall to rise again. From the ashes of the broken throne, a fire shall be kindled to claim the sea. But Callan never believed in such tales. He was a soldier, not a savior. They reached a bend in the marsh where old ruins jutted from the water pillars of a forgotten watchtower. Callan ordered the boat to slow. "We rest here. Only for a few hours." Within the crumbled stone, they made a small camp. A stray gathered herbs from the marsh's edge to tend to a lion's blistered hands. The girl, exhausted, fell asleep clutching the shard of her mother's scepter like a blade. Callan climbed the highest of the broken pillars to keep watch. That's when the fog thickened, not natural, but sentient, coiling like fingers. He drew his blade. And from it stepped a man. Or, something like a man. He was tall, skin like ash, and eyes glowing faint blue. He wore no armor, no weapon, only robes that fluttered though the wind had died. Calin Viral, the stranger said, voice like water over gravel. Son of star and flame. You run from fire, but it clings to you. Name yourself, Calin demanded. I am Solaneth, a keeper of the echo. Calin's grip on the sword tightened. That's supposed to mean something. Solaneth smiled faintly. You stand at the edge of prophecy, and yet you doubt. Your city fell not by swords, but by the threads of fate woven long before you drew your first breath. Save your riddles. But the keeper was already fading. His final words lingered in the air, the first choice has been made. Soon, the second will burn. Then the fog rolled back, and the stranger was gone. Calin descended, shaken. A stray noticed his face. What happened? Nothing. He paused. Everything. Later that night, Calin dreamt again. But this time, he was not alone. He stood in a field of silver grass, under a sky of shifting stars. A woman, cloaked in feathers, approached. Her eyes were galaxies, her voice thunder and song. I am Narrated, sentinel of the unburned path. Calin, you must lead them. Lead them where? To the western rise. Beyond the jagged isles. There, the soil will remember your blood. There, your sister will plant the first light. Calin opened his mouth to ask more, but she was already vanishing. He awoke with a jolt. The river now opened toward a vast inland sea. On the shore ahead were more survivors, dozens of them, clothed in soot and sorrow. They saw his skiff and fell to their knees. A Starborn. One cried. He lives. He lives. Calin looked to a stray, then to a lion. He did not feel like a leader. He felt like a broken sword drifting in fate's current. But perhaps that was how legends began. Chapter 3, The Ashes That Speak. The morning sun broke over the inland sea like a wound splitting the sky. Calin stood at the helm of the skiff, waves lapping gently against its sides. Before him, gathered on the stone beaches, were remnants of a shattered people, survivors of Thoralion, ragged, hollow-eyed, but still breathing. They came in silence at first. A handful stepped forward, old warriors, priests with cracked staves, children no older than a lion. Their leader was a woman of middle age, her robes tattered but bearing the gold thread of high council. I am Vireta Allur, once voice of the Eastern Gate, she said, bowing low. If you are truly Calin Viral, then the blood of the flame still burns. And we are yours. I'm no king, Calin answered, dismounting from the skiff. And Thoralion is gone. Vireta's eyes met his. Then let us build a new one. Callan said nothing. He felt the pull of her words, but also the crushing weight they carried. They made camp in the ruins of an old outpost, long abandoned by coastal rangers. Tents rose from fallen pillars, fires kindled with splinters of ancient doors. A stray moved among the wounded, stitching wounds, grinding salves. Elian helped her, ever silent, though her gaze often turned toward the horizon. That night, they burned what remained of the city's regalia: a crown, a banner, a scroll of lineage. Callan ordered it himself. "No more symbols," he said. "No more ghosts." But ghosts came anyway. In the depth of sleep, they entered his dreams like smoke slipping through stone. He found himself once more in the field of silver grass, but the sky was red now, boiling with thunder. Narrated stood before him, though her form flickered. "You burn too quickly, Callan." "I don't want to lead them," he replied. "I want to protect them." "You cannot do both," she said. Then the ground cracked, and fire surged through. From beneath the soil rose a hand, blackened and skeletal, clutching a broken sword. It offered it to him. "You must choose the weapon, or the flame will choose for you." He woke gasping. Dawn came with a message. A young boy sprinted into camp, out of breath. "There's something by the cliffs." "A stone." "Temple." Callan and a stray followed the boy, leading a handful of scouts up a rugged path until they stood before a structure carved directly into the cliffside. Moss-covered, hidden by overgrowth, and pulsing faintly with blue glyphs that none could read. It was ancient, far older than Thoralion. At the entrance, carved into black basalt, were words in a forgotten tongue. A stray traced them with her fingers, then gasped. I've seen this script before. In the Song of the Starborn. It's a temple of the first flame. The first flame. It was said to be the origin of all celestial blood, the place where the gods of sky and stone first wove mortal souls from starlight. They entered. The air was cool, heavy, thick with silence. Blue fire flickered in suspended orbs, untouched by time. As they passed beneath archways, murals danced to life on the walls, moving scenes of creation, exile, war, and prophecy. One mural stopped Callan cold. It depicted a warrior cloaked in fire, standing atop a shattered throne. At his feet lay the broken sigil of a great empire. Behind him, a young girl planted a silver tree under the light of a rising star. "Elian." "It's you," a stray whispered. "And her." Callan's hands trembled. "Or it's just another myth." But myths had teeth. A sound echoed behind them, metal sliding against stone. They spun. From the shadows stepped a man, tall, draped in robes of smoke, his face obscured by a veil of iron chains. At his side hung a curved blade that shimmered like a mirage. I did not expect visitors, he said. His voice was velvet over blades. This temple has not been touched in 1,000 years. Kalen raised his sword. Who are you? I am Thornviolan, Warden of the Forgotten Flame. And you? He tilted his head. You are a threat. A stray stepped forward. We are seeking shelter, not war. Thorn's laugh was hollow. Shelter. From what? The world outside, or the fire inside your veins? Suddenly, the torches flared. The murals darkened. Kalen stepped protectively in front of a stray. We mean no harm. That may be true now, Thorn said. But the flame within you, Kalen Viral, is awakening. And the world burns when Starborn awaken. He turned his back and began to walk away. Leave this place. Or kneel before it. But Kalen didn't move. Instead, he stared up at the final mural on the wall. It showed a river of stars. And a gate made of obsidian. Behind the gate stood a shadow, its face a perfect reflection of Kalen's own. That night, back in camp, the fires burned low. Elian sat beside Kalen, her head on his shoulder. Are we going to find it? She whispered. What? The new home. Kalen didn't answer. Because deep down, he feared the truth, the home they sought might never exist. But the war chasing them certainly did. Chapter 4, Beyond the Edge of Ash. The days following their discovery of the Flame Temple passed like mist. Kalen could not forget the face on the mural, the shadow that wore his own. Nor could he shake the echo of Thornviolan's warning, the world burns when Starborn awaken. But the stars would not wait. The inland sea was no place for permanence. Fresh water grew scarce. Supplies thinned. Every night, whispers rode the wind, soft as lullabies, yet they pulled at dreams like hands in the dark. Elian began to sleepwalk. Others saw flickering figures by the shore, shapes with no faces. It was time to leave. On the seventh dusk since the temple encounter, Kalen called a council. The survivors, now numbering nearly 100, gathered around a driftwood fire. We can't stay here, he said simply. Where would we go? Beretta asked. West lies open ocean. The storms will break us. There's land beyond it, a stray added. The prophecy speaks of the Isles of Shardlight. A place where the sky bleeds silver, and the ground remembers flame. You're chasing dreams, an old guard grumbled. Kalen stepped forward. Dreams are all we have left. That night, under the guidance of the moon, they began crafting ships. 3 vessels, carved from petrified marshwood and bound with sap resin. They bore no sails, only long curved hulls meant to ride the current westward. Before sunrise, the first of them was named, the Illyrian, meaning hope born in ash. By the fifth day, the ships were complete. Callan stood at the water's edge, staring westward. Ilion came to his side, holding the shard of the scepter once more. "Will it be like Thoralion?" she asked. "No," Callan said. "It will be something new." They departed under a sky of pale orange, the air still, the sea too calm. Callan did not trust it. They sailed into silence. For 3 days, the ocean held its breath. No birds, no breeze. Just the creak of wood and the murmur of waves. A stray kept a map etched in charcoal and prayer, but the horizon remained unchanged. Until the fourth night. Storm clouds rose like mountains from the sea. Thunder rolled low and slow, a beast awakening. The stars vanished. And from the east came a wind too strong, too sudden, too deliberate. Juno's breath. The first wave struck the Illyrian like a hammer. The mast cracked. Callan shouted over the howling wind, rallying the crew. "Hold the ropes. Keep the bows hot." Lightning splintered the sky. A vessel to their left, the Vira's Wish, was swallowed whole. Screams vanished in foam. Another ship turned too sharply and capsized. Callan clutched Ilion with one arm, the tiller with the other. A stray bled from her temple but continued chanting warding rites, trying to hold the water back with magic older than fire. Then came the voice. A whisper beneath the thunder, "Fall, Starborn. The sea has no place for you." It came from the depths. Callan looked down and saw eyes hundreds staring up through the dark. Serpents of the deep, called Mavin's children, ancient servants of drowned gods, slithered just beneath the surface. One breached the water, a massive, scaled head, eyes glowing amber. Its mouth opened wide. "Brace!" Callan roared. The creature slammed into the Illyrian, shattering the prow. Men flew like rag dolls. Ilion slipped from Callan's grasp into the sea. "No." He dove after her, the cold hitting like iron. The ocean dragged him down, and in that abyss, he saw the thing again, its mouth now forming words in black water. "Only the broken may pass the threshold." Callan's lungs burned. He reached for Ilion, her hand barely visible through bubbles. Then light. A surge of blinding white from below. Not lightning. Not magic. It came from Ilion. The shard she carried pulsed like a star reborn, pushing the serpent back. The sea shook. Callan grabbed her, and a current lifted them like wings. They broke the surface, gasping. Above, the storm began to crack apart. The sea calmed. The monster was gone. Hours later, the shattered remains of the Illyrian drifted onto the shores of an island veiled in mist. Half the survivors were gone. But the rest, they were alive. Kalen collapsed onto sand, coughing salt and blood. Beside him, Elian sat in silence, the shard now dull in her palm. A stray crawled over, her voice hoarse. That wasn't just a storm. Kalen nodded. No. That was a warning. And ahead of them, rising beyond the fog, were cliffs that glowed faintly in the dark blue veins of light pulsing through their stone. The Isles of Shardlight. The next chapter had begun. Chapter V, The Isles of Shardlight. The mist parted like a curtain of ghost silk, revealing a world unlike any Kalen had seen. The Isles of Shardlight rose jagged from the sea like the broken ribs of a fallen god. Cliffs etched with glowing blue veins pulsed in rhythm with something deep beneath the earth like a heartbeat trapped in stone. No trees grew here. No birds sang. And yet, the air felt aware. They made landfall at dawn, the remnants of the shattered Illyrian drifting behind them like the bones of a dream. Only 46 survivors remained. Kalen walked ahead, the first to set foot on the obsidian shore. As he did, the ground beneath his boots lit up with faint sigils, glyphs that spiraled outward like ripples in water. A stray noticed it too. It's reacting to you, she whispered. This place knows your blood. Behind them, Elian clutched the dull shard close to her chest. It no longer glowed, but she could still hear it humming, singing a tune only she could understand. One that matched her own heartbeat. Kalen led the group inland. The terrain was cruel, winding ravines, sharp stones, and chasms that breathed steam. Yet they pressed on, driven by a pull none could name. By midday, they reached a vast basin, hidden between twin peaks of black crystal. In its center stood a circular stone platform, hovering above a pit of blue fire. Carvings surrounded it, spirals of text, ancient and undeciphered. Kalen stepped toward it. As he did, the blue fire surged upward, not to burn, but to form. A figure emerged, suspended in the flame. He was tall, his body forged from light and memory. His eyes burned silver, and his voice came not from his mouth but from every stone around him. You have come, at last, Kalen Viral, son of Vidur, Flameborn. The survivors fell to their knees. Even a stray staggered back in awe. Kalen stood firm. Who are you? I am Iron, keeper of the Wound Stargate, sentinel of the flame that was. The figure slowly descended onto the stone. His feet did not touch the ground. I am the last voice of the gods you no longer remember. Why here? Why now? Because prophecy bends. And the world forgets. Iron gestured toward Elian. The child you protect. She is not merely your sister. She is the vein of dawn, the living fragment of the first flame, hidden in mortal flesh. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Kaelin's throat tightened. What do you mean? Thoralion was not just a city, Iron explained. It was a seal. A prison. Built atop the place where the flame was divided. Your mother, Celera, knew. That's why she kept the lion hidden. That's why she died. Kaelin looked at Elion. She was trembling, but she did not cry. I've always heard it, she whispered. The singing. Iron nodded. Because you are its echo. A moment of silence fell. Then, the wind shifted. A scream cut through the air, a scout, running back from the cliffs. They've come. The shadow marked. Kaelin turned, his hand going to his sword. From the mists, shadows spilled, dozens of cloaked figures, faces hidden behind silver masks. At their center stood a tall woman, her voice cold as the void. I am Mirath, seer of Juno. The child is ours. The flame must die. Kaelin stood between her and Elion, blade drawn. Then you'll go through me. You misunderstand, Mirath replied. We don't want to fight. She raised her hand. Her fingers curled in a symbol of peace. We want to make a trade. A prisoner was dragged forward, Maelric. Kaelin's eyes widened. His brother was alive, though barely. Blood crusted his mouth. One eye swollen shut. But he stood on his feet, pride still burning in his gaze. Brother, Kaelin whispered. Come with us, Mirath said. Surrender the girl, and your brother walks free. Astray turned to Kaelin, eyes wide with pain. It's a trap. I know, he said. Iron spoke again, calmly. There is a choice to be made. There is always a choice. Kaelin's fingers tightened around the hilt. Behind him, Elion stepped forward. I'll go, she said quietly. I can't let him die for me. No. Kaelin snapped. You don't understand what you are. But Elion was already walking toward the edge of the circle. The flames surrounding Iron surged. Suddenly, a beam of light struck from the sky, searing the ground between Kaelin and Mirath's forces. Iron lifted his hand. No more words. The trial begins now. And the battlefield was born. Chapter 6, The Mirror Queen. Smoke and starlight clung to the battlefield as the flames of the Wound Stargate receded. The assault had come swift and brutal. Mirath's shadow mark moved with the precision of death priests, their blades curved like the crescent moons they worshipped. But Kaelin had chosen to fight. With Iron's final cry echoing in the sky, the circle had become a storm of clashing metal and blue fire. Elian, clutching the shard close, stood behind Astray, who whispered ancient words around her like a song of protection. The child of flame would not fall tonight. Kalen fought like a man possessed. He tore through the masked assassins, his blade no longer just steel but something brighter flaring with light that twisted with every strike. Mirath tried to reach Elian, but Iron's flame coiled around her like a cage, forcing her to retreat. And then the sea roared. A wall of water surged from the cliffs and crashed across the battlefield, dousing flame, scattering men, breaking bone. It came not from the ocean, but from a voice. A voice like thunder in chains. Enough. The ground trembled. From behind the high ridge of the Isles, figures appeared tall, cloaked in mist, riding beasts shaped like shadow wolves and smoked deer. At their center sat a woman on a throne carved from translucent crystal. Her skin shimmered with opal hues, her hair a river of black glass. Her eyes reflected everything and nothing. I am Serindal, Queen of the Mirror Realm. Kalen, half kneeling in the surf, stared up as silence fell across the field. The shadow-marked froze. Even Iron lowered his flame, nodding once to her. So, you remain. I remain because I must, she replied. You trespass upon ancient land, and bring war to a place older than memory. Mirath rose shakily. She carries the flame. She is a child, Serindal said coldly. And children do not decide the fate of gods. Kalen stepped forward, bleeding from his brow. We did not come to wage war. No, the Mirror Queen said, but war follows you like a shadow. She turned to her riders. Take the wounded. Bind the traitors. Bring the child. And the Starborn. They were led through glass paths suspended above glowing rivers, the heart of the Isles, where crystal trees hummed and the wind sang names long forgotten. Kalen was placed in a room of mirrors that reflected not his face, but his fears. Astray and Elian were separated from him. That night, Serindal came. You are flame, she said simply. But fire is not always life. Sometimes it is ruin. I didn't choose this. No. But it chose you. She sat opposite him, her throne shimmering from behind. Tell me. Do you love the girl? Kalen blinked. She's my sister. No. Her gaze pierced. I mean the healer. The one who chants in the tongue of the first fire. His jaw tightened. That's none of your concern. Oh, but it is. Serindal's voice grew softer. Because when your heart is bound, Your choices no longer belong to fate. They belong to love. And love ruins prophecy. Kaelin said nothing. Rest, she said. Tomorrow, we speak again. Elsewhere, Elian dreamed. In the dream, she stood on a burning sea. Above her, the stars bled. Below, a shadow whispered. You are not a child. You are a key. The gate is not closed. It is sleeping. She saw her brother drowning. A stray bleeding. A throne of black fire calling her name. She awoke in tears. The next morning, Kaelin was brought before a crystal pool. Serindel stood beside it, wearing armor of prismatic scale. This place is a mirror, she said. It shows what you hide. The waters shimmered. Kaelin saw Thoralion burning. His mother's death. Maelric screaming. Elian glowing, rising, becoming more than a child. Then the image changed. It showed Kaelin sitting on a throne, dark, twisted, alone. Below him, the world burned in silence. That is not me, he said. But it could be, Serindel whispered. Before he could speak again, a voice shouted from above. They've escaped. Chaos. Mirath had broken her bonds. The shadow marked had freed her and taken Elian. Kaelin's fury ignited like a storm. He raced down corridors of light, blade drawn, cutting through traitors and defenders alike. A stray caught up to him, eyes blazing. They're heading toward the outer gate. Together, they chased through the jungle glass paths, hearts pounding. And there on the cliffs Kaelin saw it. Mirath stood with Elian on the edge, dagger to her throat. Let her go. Kaelin roared. No. She dies, or the flame burns the world. Kaelin took a step forward. Mirath raised her blade. And Elian's eyes changed. They glowed. Not with fire but with memory. The shard in her hand burst into flame, but it was no ordinary fire. It sang. A sound like every bell, every prayer, every name ever spoken. The cliff exploded. Light surged. Kaelin was thrown backward. The sky cracked. When the smoke cleared, Mirath was gone. The edge of the aisle scorched to glass. Elian stood alone. Breathing. But no longer quite a child. Chapter 7, The Ash and the Arrow. The shards of the cliff still steamed as dawn broke. Elian stood in silence, barefoot on the obsidian ledge, the morning sun turning her pale skin golden. But the light in her eyes was no longer a child's. Something ancient stared back, something vast and watching. Kaelin approached her slowly, sword sheathed, hands bare. Are you hurt? She didn't look at him. I don't think I can be. Anymore. Behind them, the survivors gathered. A stray stood apart, arms crossed, blood still on her hands from healing the wounded. Her gaze was fixed on Kaelin, not Elian. Queen Serindel had summoned them to the Hall of Reflection, where the pool of memory awaited once more. This time, it showed Elian alone. No throne. No flame. Only a gate. And behind that gate, herself, older, wreathed in fire, eyes weeping starlight. She's becoming what the prophecy warned, Serindel murmured. You must let her go. Kaelin's fist clenched. I will not abandon her. She is not being abandoned, the queen replied. She is ascending. That night, Kaelin watched Elian sleep. A stray joined him under the crystal archway. Neither spoke for a long time. Then a stray whispered, "You're afraid of her." "I'm afraid for her." "No," she said. "You're afraid because she's leaving you behind." Kaelin turned to face her, and for the first time, there was no fire in his eyes, only exhaustion. "She's all I have left." "You have more," a stray said. Then softer, "You have me." He said nothing. So she stood. Tomorrow, she will choose. And so will you. At dawn, the island sang. It wasn't a sound. It was a pulse, a resonance felt in the bone. All across the shard-light isles, the ground glowed softly with flame sigils. The calling had begun. Elian walked barefoot toward the outer ridge, where the obsidian arch rose like the ribs of some ancient beast. The arch pulsed with power, a gate between the mortal and the forgotten. Kaelin followed, but Serindel barred his path. She must go alone. No, he growled. But a stray stepped in front of him, eyes brimming with quiet pain. She has to. Elian turned to him one last time. I don't know what I'll become, she said. But I know that the person I was would have followed you anywhere. Tears stung Kaelin's eyes, but he nodded. And I would still burn the world to bring you home. She smiled. Then stepped into the gate. Light engulfed her. One day passed. Then another. On the third day, the light ceased. But Elian did not return. Kaelin stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. He stood on the same cliff every day, waiting. Serindel's voice came like silk against steel. She won't come back the same. I don't care. But you will. A week later, the queen summoned Kaelin privately. You must leave. He laughed. bitter. You want to exile me now? No, she said. I want to save you. She turned and gestured toward the pool of memory once more. This time, it showed Kalen. On a boat. Alone. And a stray, left behind on the shore. Kalen looked away. Serindel continued, the mirror realm does not allow those who anchor themselves to grieve. If you stay, you will break. Kalen stood. Then I break. But before he could leave, a stray blocked his way. You promised me, she whispered, back in the marshes you said we would build something together. I promised to protect the lion. She's no longer someone who can be protected. Kalen's breath caught. A stray stepped closer, her voice trembling. I love you, Kalen. But if you chase her beyond the gate, you'll lose everything else. Including yourself. His heart broke in silence. And so that night, under starlight that flickered like breath, Kalen left the Isles. He did not tell a stray goodbye. He simply boarded the last remaining ship, and sailed toward the west toward the jagged coasts, where the gods of old whispered through storms and stone. Far away, in the highest chamber of the obsidian arch, a lion opened her eyes. She was not alone. 1,000 voices whispered her name. And one, louder than the rest, said, "Welcome back, Flamekeeper." Chapter 8, The Curse of the West Wind. The sea was quiet, too quiet. Kalen stood alone on the deck of the Virelin, the last ship crafted from the remains of their Alliance fallen fleet. Sails of ash-gray cloth billowed gently in a breeze that smelled faintly of iron. Behind him, the Isles of Shardlight were just a memory veiled in mist, fading with every gust of wind. He had left a stray behind. He had left a lion behind. Now he sailed westward toward a horizon spoken of only in myth. For days, the sea offered no resistance. No storm. No monsters. Just vast water and the weight of choices past. Kalen rarely slept. When he did, he dreamed of flame. Not fire in battle, but cold fire, the kind that burned without heat, prophecy burning in reverse. On the fifth night, he saw a figure standing on the water. A woman. Tall. Radiant. Her skin was silver veined with purple light. Her eyes were galaxies, spinning in silence. She did not speak, but Kalen felt her voice inside his bones. You left the flame behind, but the gods have not left you. He reached for his sword. She raised her hand. The wind died. The sea froze. And the stars went dark. When Kalen awoke, the ship was dead in the water. No breeze. No wave. Just stillness. He checked the sky. The sun was gone. but not set vanished, as if erased. And then, from the depths, the curse came. A single word, whispered in 100 voices. Unforgiven. The sea boiled. Waves rose not from storm, but from something beneath. Callan drew his sword. But there was no enemy in sight. Only the feeling of being watched. Judged. The mast cracked. The rudder shattered. The ship began to spin in place, drawn into a whirlpool of liquid shadow. And then a flare of light. An arrow struck the water, sizzling like a comet. Callan looked up. A ship. Sleek. Red-sailed. Marked with runes from the outer tribes. A voice called, "Throw him a rope." Strong arms pulled him aboard just as the Virelin was swallowed whole. Callan collapsed, coughing salt. Around him, foreign faces cloaked figures with knives, feathers, and eyes painted like hawks. At their center stood a man. Dark-skinned, lean, with gold rings in his ears and scars across his cheek. Didn't think the Flameborn would be so eager to drown himself, he said with a smirk. Name Siren. Captain of the Glass Ghost. Callan narrowed his eyes. Why save me? Maybe I like shiny things, Siren replied. Maybe I want a favor from the gods. Or maybe, he crouched beside Callan, smile fading. Maybe I've been hired to deliver you. Callan's hand twitched toward his blade. Siren saw it. Relax. If I wanted you dead, you'd be sleeping at the bottom of the sea. I've got other plans. The glass ghost cut through the waves with unnatural grace. It ran on whispers and moonlight, powered by magic that Callan didn't trust. At night, the crew sang songs in a language he didn't know, something older than flame. Siren watched him often, never hiding the curiosity or the hunger in his gaze. Callan healed slowly. But something gnawed at him. The sea hadn't calmed naturally. He'd been spared. Chosen, again. And that was always dangerous. 3 days later, Siren invited him below deck. You know what's west of here? The captain asked. Callan said nothing. The Isles of Halbone, Siren continued. Where the wind screams and the stones bleed. That's where I'm taking you. That's where your fate wants you next. Callan frowned. Why? Because that's where she's waiting. Callan froze. Who? Siren's smile turned cruel. Your mother. That night, Callan demanded answers. But Siren only gave him riddles. Until, finally, one of the crew, a girl no older than a lion, with star-shaped scars on her palms, took pity. She's alive, the girl whispered. The priestess Celera. Trapped in the Bone Isles. Kept in a glass tomb by the Veilborn. Kalen's world tilted. His mother had died. Burned. He had seen her body. Or had he? Why would Siren take me to her? The girl looked away. Because he serves one of the forgotten gods. One who hates the first flame. Kalen didn't sleep that night. He stood at the bow of the glass ghost, watching the storm clouds gather again. He knew what came next. A test. Not of strength but of belief. And when the islands rose ahead, jagged and howling, he felt a pulse in his chest, the same one a lion had felt. The shard still lived. And somewhere, across the black tide, Celera did too. Chapter 9, The Tomb That Breathes. The sea turned black beneath the clouds. The glass ghost cut through the churning waters like a blade, its sails hissing with strange incantations as the sky above roared and spat lightning into the waves. Kalen stood at the bow, the wind screaming in his ears, his mind a storm all its own. They were close now. He could feel it. The Howl Bone Isles rose like shattered fangs from the sea, jagged cliffs streaked with white ash, as if the land itself had been scorched. Nothing grew there. No birds flew. Only the wind howled, whistling through ancient tunnels carved by time and magic. Siren came to Kalen's side, hands behind his back, cloak flapping like wings. "Home sweet home," the captain said with a smirk. "Try not to die too quickly." Kalen didn't answer. He'd seen it in the crew's eyes: fear, reverence, and something else, regret. They docked on a crumbling stone pier. The air was thick with sulfur, and every breath tasted like secrets. Siren's crew began unloading supplies: torches, rope, blades sharpened with bone oil. "What exactly lives here?" Kalen asked. Siren chuckled. "Wrong question. Then what's the right one?" Siren's smile faded. "What dies here?" They entered the tombs at dusk. Caves like open mouths lined the cliffside. Inside, carvings pulsed with faint silver light, language of the Veilborn, a race older than time, said to have struck deals with forgotten gods in exchange for eternal silence. Kalen led the way, blade drawn. Siren followed, always just a step behind. Deeper in, the light changed. The air grew colder. Whispers brushed against the edge of Kalen's hearing, names he had never heard, but somehow knew. Then they found it. A chamber of glass and bone. At its center, a coffin made of crystal vines wrapped around a figure suspended in glowing fluid. Celera. Kalen's heart nearly stopped. His knees weakened. Mother. Her body floated, eyes closed, mouth parted as if mid-prayer. She had not aged a day. Siren stepped forward, torch in hand. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Kalen turned sharply. You said she was alive. She is, Siren replied. In a manner of speaking. What do you mean? And then the smirk returned. She's the price. Kalen's sword was out before Siren finished speaking. What did you do? I brought you here, Siren said, slowly circling the tomb. That was the deal. In exchange for her soul, I would be granted passage through the storm line. But the gods are cruel. They demanded more. Kalen's blade trembled. You. They wanted you, Kalen, Siren said, voice turning soft, like a lover's lie. The last Starborn. The heir of flame. Your blood will wake the tombs of the Veilborn. And they will rise again. Kalen lunged. Steel met steel. Siren was faster than he had shown before. His blade curved like a serpent, each stroke aiming not to kill, but to wound, to drain Kalen slowly. The chamber echoed with their clash. In the chaos, Kalen's shoulder was slashed, blood spattering across the crystal coffin. The reaction was immediate. The vines pulsed. Celera's eyes opened. She screamed. But it was not a scream of pain. It was a call. And the mountain answered. Walls cracked. The floor split. From the shadows, they came Veilborn wraiths, draped in chains of gold and shadow, their faces hidden behind cracked masks of gods long dead. They didn't walk. They drifted. Siren laughed, eyes wild. It begins. Kalen had no choice. He turned, slashed the crystal tomb with his blade. Celera fell. He caught her in his arms as the fluid poured out like molten stars. Her breath was shallow, but real. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. Too late, Kalen said. Siren raised his hands, summoning the Veilborn to strike. Kalen reached for the shard Elion had given him long ago, still hanging around his neck. It glowed. A beam of light surged outward, striking the cavern roof. The whole chamber collapsed. Kalen woke hours later, buried beneath rubble. Celera lay beside him, unconscious but alive. Siren was gone. But the Veilborn weren't. One stood at the edge of the ruin, tall, gaunt, crowned in a twisted halo of black roots. It spoke with a voice like cracking stone. Starborn, your blood has opened the gate. Kalen staggered to his feet. You want a war? No, it said. We want your flame. The creature raised a clawed hand. Kalen grabbed Celera and ran. Through the tunnels. Through the ash. Through the screams of things that should not be. He escaped that night barely. Alone. Broken. But alive. And carrying the truth. Siren had betrayed him. The Veilborn had awakened. And his mother remembered everything. Chapter X, The Blood That Binds. The forest was dead. Trees with hollow cores stood like pillars of bone across the shores of the western coast, their bark marked by sigils carved in haste and fear. The air crackled with static, and every breath tasted of secrets that never should have been spoken. Kalen moved between them like a shadow. His shoulder was torn, ribs bruised, heart raw. But in his arms, Celera stirred. They had escaped the tombs of the Veilborn, but the curse followed. The light from the shard had bought them time, not peace. Each step was stolen. Each heartbeat borrowed. They found refuge in a ruin of an old watchtower, a relic of a war lost before Kalen's birth. There, Kalen built a fire and waited. Waited for his mother to awaken. Waited for answers. Waited for fate to speak again. Celera opened her eyes at dusk. For a long while, she said nothing, just stared at her son, as if not quite believing he was real. Finally, she whispered, "You came for me." Kalen managed a pained smile. "I had nothing left to lose." She reached up, cupped his face. "You have no idea how wrong that is." He stiffened. "Then tell me." And so she did. "I knew from the beginning," she said, voice low, crackling like wind through dry leaves. "You were not meant to survive Thoralion. None of us were. But I made a bargain with something older than the gods." Kalen didn't flinch. "The first flame." "No," she whispered. "The flame was only a vessel. The bargain was with the silence." His breath caught. "That's what the Veilborn serve," she continued. "Not death. Not darkness. The silence before creation. And in exchange for sparing you and Elian, I gave them, me." Kalen shook his head. "Then why am I still hunted?" "Because I lied," she said. "I told them Elian was stillborn. I hid her from prophecy. From divinity. From destiny itself." He stared into the fire. "So she's, what?" Celera turned away. "She is not a girl, Kalen. She is a key. To the gate. To the rebirth. To the unmaking." Silence fell between them like ash. Outside, the forest groaned. The shard around Kalen's neck pulsed again, soft, like a heartbeat trying to sync with his own. He looked down. "She's calling me." "She shouldn't be," Celera said. "Not if the seal was intact." Kaelin stood. So what do I do? Celara didn't answer. She only said, when you see her again, she will not remember you as her brother. She will remember you as the one chosen to kill her or save the world. His hands trembled. But I'm not ready, he whispered. No one ever is, she replied. That night, Kaelin dreamed. He stood at the edge of a vast, endless plain, dark, starlit, scattered with bones that whispered his name. Across from him stood a lion. But she was no longer the girl he knew. Her body was wreathed in silver fire, her eyes twin comets, and her voice echoed like prophecy. You left me. I didn't. You chose the world. I didn't. And now the world chooses you. She raised her hand. And Kaelin burst into flame. He woke screaming. Celara was gone. She had left behind a single token, the memory stone, an artifact of the Veilborn. It pulsed with her magic, her thoughts, her final truth. Kaelin took it, held it, and felt her final whisper. She must not ascend without choice. Give her the choice. Even if it means you burn with her. By morning, Kaelin stood on a cliff above the sea of names. The sky had cleared. The storms had parted. For the first time in weeks, he could see stars. He whispered to them. Elian. I'm coming. And the stars whispered back. Far away, across distant islands and ruined sky bridges, Elian opened her eyes again. She no longer remembered who she was. But she remembered him. A name. A voice. A fire. Chapter 11, The Flame That Forgot. The sky burned violet. Kaelin stood atop the obsidian gate, his cloak torn, boots caked in ash. Before him stretched the hallowed expanse, the last of the sacred lands untouched by war. A place where gods once walked, now abandoned to myth. And there, at its center, Elian stood waiting. Not the girl he remembered. She wore no armor, no crown. Her skin shimmered with the silver hue of first starlight, and her eyes were storms turning, endless, unknowable. Her hair floated in the air, strands lit like embers suspended in a windless world. Around her, the ground pulsed with glyphs, ancient Veilborn sigils, drawn not with ink, but with raw memory. Kaelin stepped forward. Elian. She did not move. Elian, it's me. Silence. Then, finally, that name is old. Kaelin felt his throat tighten. You gave it to me. The day we fled Thoralion. You called for me when the fire took our home. Her gaze flickered. A whisper, that world is gone. He dared another step. But you are not. No, she said softly. I am no longer anything. The winds shifted. From the edges of the expanse, figures emerged cloaked, masked, armored. The flame-bound. Beings born of prophecy, forged in temples long sealed. Servants of the one who wakes. Behind them, Kalen heard horns, his own allies, those from the scattered tribes who had followed him west, now arriving. Ready. Willing. Afraid. This wasn't a reunion. It was a war. Elian raised her hand. The earth split. Flames poured out, not red, not orange, but white. Fire that erased, not burned. Kalen barely rolled aside before the blast struck where he'd stood. Elian, please. He shouted. You don't have to do this. I must, she said. The gate is open. The silence calls. I am the gate. Then close it. He roared. Close it before it takes you too. She looked at him for a heartbeat. Then the whisper, I can't. Battle erupted. The flame-bound charged, blades glowing, eyes blank. Kalen's warriors surged forward, swords clashing with prophecy, steel meeting fire. Kalen fought toward her, cutting down two flame-bound in a dance of fury and desperation. Each step felt like betrayal. He reached her. Their blades met. He struck low, she blocked. She moved like a wraith, faster than thought. Their swords rang like bells of morning. Sparks flew. I don't want this. Kalen shouted. Then yield. I can't. Then die. A stray appeared through the chaos, bloodied, wild-eyed, blade in hand. She charged toward them. Kalen shouted, no. Stay back. But Elian turned. Her hand lifted. A stray screamed, lifted into the air, burning in a cage of light. Kalen dropped his sword. Enough. He knelt. Elian faltered. The fire around a stray died. Kalen raised his eyes. If I die here, fine. But I won't raise my sword against you. Not ever again. Elian stared. Her hand trembled. For a second of breath her eyes changed. The silver faded. A tear fell. Kalen. He rose slowly. Come back to me. She took a step forward. Then another. The light around her began to dim. And then a voice thundered across the expanse. Not hers. Not Kalen's. but Juno's. The choice is a lie. The gate must open. Lightning ripped the sky. The Veilborn appeared from thin air 20, then 50, then hundreds. The prophecy had drawn them. The key was active. Elian screamed not in rage, but in agony. I can't stop it. It's inside me. Kalen ran to her. Held her. I'll stop it with you. The shard between them ignited, fused by sibling bond, by memory, by love that refused to vanish. The world cracked. And everything went white. Hours passed. 4 days. Time meant nothing in the in-between. When Kalen opened his eyes again, they were alone, floating in a place without gravity or horizon. Elian lay in his arms, unconscious, but breathing. The Veilborn were gone. The Flamebound scattered. The gate closed. But not broken. Beside them, the voice of Celera whispered once more, from somewhere not truly dead. She chose. And in choosing, she bought time. Kalen stood. Held his sister close. And whispered to the stars, then I'll spend that time saving her. Chapter 12, The God of No Name. The light faded slowly, like a song you knew from childhood, but couldn't remember the last verse. Kalen awoke in darkness. Not the kind that blinds, but the kind that listens. The air felt thick, too heavy to breathe, yet too soft to be real. There was no sky. No ground. Only ripples of faint starlight, suspended like threads in water. Elian lay beside him, pale, unmoving. She breathed. But something was different. The fire inside her was quiet. Kalen staggered to his feet. His wounds had closed, but not healed. His mind felt stretched, like a map pulled too tight. The shard at his neck had cracked its glow, now flickering like a dying candle. He looked around. Nothing. And then, footsteps. Not echoing. Not approaching. Just existing. Suddenly, from the haze emerged a figure draped in layers of dust-colored cloth, their face hidden behind a mask carved from a single onyx gem. No eye holes. No mouth. Still he spoke. Welcome to the silence. Kalen drew his sword. The figure raised a single finger. The blade crumbled in Kalen's hand. You will not need that here. Kalen stood tall, even barehanded. Who are you? The voice was quiet thunder. I am the one who walks between all prayers. The God they forgot to name. You're one of them, the ones who made her this way. No, the God said. I did not shape the key. I only wait at the door she might open. Kalen clenched his fists. If you've come to claim her. I have come, the god interrupted, to offer a choice. They stood in silence. The god turned, and suddenly, the space around them twisted. Images flared, floating fragments of a life not yet lived. A lion, older, standing atop a tower of flame, her eyes cold and divine. Kalen, kneeling at her feet, crowned in chains of gold and ash. A world burning beneath them. Then the god spoke. She will ascend again. And next time, she will not stop it. Kalen's voice was dry. Unless you bind her. How? With this. A sphere appeared in the god's hand, dark, silent, pulsing like a heartbeat wrapped in stone. The heart of unmaking, the god said. Place it within her. It will shatter her connection to the flame. She will live, but never again rise. Kalen's voice broke. She'll forget everything. Yes. She'll be mortal. Yes. No prophecy. No power. No, nothing. She will be your sister again. Kalen dropped to his knees. It wasn't a trap. It was worse. It was kindness with a knife behind its back. He looked at a lion, her face soft, lips parted in sleep. So young. So tired. So human. She saved me, he whispered. She doomed the world to save you, the god said. Now it is your turn. Time meant nothing in the silence. It could have been hours. Or minutes. Kalen finally stood. Took the sphere. Held it over a lion's chest. Then he stopped. No, he said. I beg your pardon. The god said, quietly surprised. I won't take her choice away. Not like they did to me. Or to you. She will ascend again. She will burn everything. Then I'll burn with her. The god tilted his head. In all the futures I've seen, he murmured, you are the only one who says that. I'm not a god, Kalen said, smiling. I'm a brother. The god vanished. So did the sphere. And the silence cracked. Light poured in. Sound returned. And Kalen awoke. This time for real. In a field of glass flowers. A lion stirred beside him. She opened her eyes. And remembered his name. Chapter 13, The Empire Without Gods. The field shimmered like starlight frozen in bloom. Kalen helped a lion to her feet. Her body was warm. Her heart beat steady. But her eyes, those silver-streaked orbs, no longer blazed. They pulsed gently, as if learning to be human again. "Where are we?" she asked. Kalen looked around. Not silence. Not the flame gate. Somewhere new. Somewhere real. Far in the distance, mountains jagged like broken teeth rimmed the horizon. The air was thin. Cold. Clean. And quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No wind. No magic. They walked for hours across empty plains and abandoned ruins, remnants of villages long since swallowed by sand and root. Symbols of the old gods were defaced. Shrines to the flame lay shattered. Elian paused beside a ruined statue of Beater, her eyes flickering. "They broke everything," she whispered. Kalen nodded. Something wanted the world to forget. That night, they found a small farmstead. Burned. Still warm. And a sigil carved into the wall, 3 intersecting circles surrounded by chains. Kalen stared. "I've seen this before." Elian finished it for him, the Empire of Ash. By morning, they weren't alone. A patrol found them 6 soldiers clad in dark steel, no insignias, no banners. Their faces masked. Their weapons cold forged. They didn't ask questions. They just attacked. Kalen fought with blade and fist, his old strength returning in bursts. Elian moved like wind, silent, smooth, no longer divine, but still dangerous. When the dust cleared, 1 soldier remained. Kalen pinned him to the ground. "Who do you serve?" The man laughed, blood in his teeth. "We serve the one who replaced the gods." Elian stepped closer. "Name them." The soldier's smile widened. "Siren." They reached the outskirts of Narrated, once a holy city to the Veilborn, now transformed into a brutalist fortress. Black towers, iron pylons, skyships patrolling in silence. A new world. And above it all, etched across the great citadel gate. "Flame is false. Will is all." Kalen clenched his jaw. "He's remade everything." They entered the city in secret, through tunnels Astray had once mapped in stolen scrolls. But her name had become a ghost. No one knew her. No one dared speak of the Flamekeeper. In the city's heart, a monument stood, a statue of Siren, crowned not with gold, but with broken relics of godhood. He held no sword, only a book. Its title: The Unbinding. That night, Kalen and Elian infiltrated the lower citadel. But Siren had been waiting. He stood on the dais of the throne chamber, dressed not in armor, but in robes of marble white, trimmed in ash gray. "My stars return," he said calmly. Callan drew his blade. "No games." "No need," Siren replied. "You're already too late." He gestured around the throne room lined with artifacts from across the old world, fragments of flame relics, first flame scrolls, bones of Vale-born saints. "I didn't destroy the gods, Callan. I replaced them." "Why?" Elian asked, her voice cutting through. "Because they never gave us a choice," Siren said. "Not you. Not me. Not her." He stepped closer. "But now. Now they follow me because they choose to. I am no god. I'm worse, I'm free." Callan lunged. Siren blocked. They clashed, fire against wool, steel against silence. But Callan felt it, Siren was stronger. Not by magic but by conviction. He truly believed in the world he'd made. Elian tried to strike but froze. Her body, her flame was still broken. Siren turned to her. "You could have ruled beside me," he said softly. "The girl who broke the gate. The one who made silence scream." "I'm not that anymore," she whispered. He tilted his head. "Then you are nothing." Callan was losing. Siren pinned him to the marble, blade at his throat. "You're not the hero anymore, Callan. You're the relic." But before the final blow, the sky broke. A ripple tore across the ceiling, and from it, a stray, draped in white flame, alive, changed. "Let him go," she said, voice layered with divine echo. Siren turned, eyes narrowing. "You survived the gate." "No," she said. "I became its warden." Chapter 14, The Fire Between Us. The throne hall trembled. Marble cracked. The sky above it twisted, glowing with echoes of the flame gate. Siren stood frozen, his blade hovering above Callan's throat, staring up at the impossible figure descending from light. A stray. But she was no longer the healer he once knew. Her body shimmered with ghost light, her steps left behind runes etched in fire. She bore no weapons, only a circlet of broken flame above her brow, and in her hands, the memory blade, a sword that cut not flesh, but truth. "I thought I killed you," Siren hissed. A stray landed softly. "You did. And in doing so, you let me pass beyond what even gods fear." Callan staggered to his feet, bleeding but alive. Elian rushed to his side, helping him up, her eyes locked on a stray. "You became the warden," Elian whispered. A stray nodded. "Because someone had to guard the gate," when no one else would. Siren recovered first. I should have burned your bones, he sneered. But it doesn't matter. You can't stop what's coming. The Empire has already chosen its path. He turned to the shattered stained glass behind his throne, now showing not gods, but men rising from ash. Choice, he said. That's what this world needs. Not fire. Not prophecy. Just will. You speak of will, Astray replied, stepping forward, but you took it from everyone who still believed in something more. Siren snarled. I freed them. No, Kalen said, voice rising, you rewrote them. The clash began. Siren summoned the remnants of the flame-bound, reshaped in his image, armored in steel, bearing no symbols. Astray raised the memory blade. Every strike she made did not wound the body but forced the target to remember. One recalled the screams of Thoralion. Another saw their family devoured by the silence. A third collapsed, sobbing for a child they never saved. The army broke not by force, but by truth. Only Siren remained. He roared, launching at Kalen. Their blades met Kalen's steel against Siren's obsidian edge. Sparks rained. You were always weaker, Siren spat. Born of gods, chained by guilt. Kalen bared his teeth. And you were always afraid. Their swords locked. Kalen forced Siren back blow by blow until Astray appeared behind him, placing her hand on Kalen's shoulder. Together, they pushed. Siren fell to his knees. Elion stepped forward. Not glowing. Not burning. Just, her. You took my memories, she said softly. I saved you from them, Siren gasped. No, she replied, voice steady. You saved yourself. She placed her hand over his chest. And whispered, goodbye. The shard in her palm pulsed one final time. Light exploded. When the dust settled, Siren was gone. Not dead. Not destroyed. But, forgotten. Every trace of him, his throne, his banners, his face in the minds of his people vanished like mist in sunlight. The Empire didn't fall. It simply, never remembered. Kalen turned to Astray. Is it over? She smiled. No. But it's quiet for now. He took Elion's hand. For the first time, her fingers didn't burn. What now? She asked. Astray looked toward the broken sky. We rebuild. With memory. With choice. And without thrones. Chapter 15, The Starborn Legacy. The skies above Narrated were quiet for the first time in generations. Smoke drifted lazily from the broken spires of the citadel, curling into patterns that no longer whispered names of gods. The banners were torn down. The obsidian thrones shattered. And for the first time in recorded memory, the world belonged to no one. Kaelin stood atop the eastern wall, staring out across the ruins of what had once been the Empire of Ash. Below, workers from across the former kingdoms gathered: builders, healers, poets. No soldiers. No priests. Just people. Free. Elian sat nearby, legs dangling over the ledge. Her silver eyes shimmered in the sunrise, but not with power. With memory. "Do you think they'll remember what we did?" she asked. Kaelin smiled faintly. "They'll remember what we didn't do." She looked confused. "We didn't become tyrants," he said. "We didn't rebuild the old world. We just let them begin again." Later that morning, they buried the shard. Not in ceremony. Not in sorrow. Just, gently. A stray said the words. "Here lies the fire that changed the world. May it never burn blindly again." Then she stepped back. Kaelin watched her closely. She had changed since returning from the gate. Her presence felt quieter, yet deeper, like a song you didn't realize you missed until someone hummed the chorus. "You're leaving," he said. Astray nodded. "There are still other gates," she said. "Other wounds. I am their warden now. I walk where echoes linger." Kaelin stepped closer. "Will I see you again?" She smiled, soft, tired, real. "When the silence returns," she whispered, "call my name." That night, the stars returned. Not just as pinpricks in the sky, but whole constellations long thought lost. The flame crown. The weaver's bow. The morning wolf. And high above all of them, the Starborn. A new constellation. Kaelin stared at it for a long time. Elian sat beside him, leaning against his shoulder. "Do you ever wonder if we were just stories someone forgot to write down?" she asked. He shook his head. "No. We were stories that someone was too afraid to write." They sat in silence. Weeks passed. Then months. Narrated became something new, neither city nor kingdom, but a beacon. No gods ruled it. No rulers claimed it. It was just a place where stories were shared, and no one's pain was greater than anyone else's. Elian began writing. Not flame runes. Not spells. Stories. Of Thralion. Of Astray. Of their mother. Of Kaelin. and of the choice that rewrote the world. One day, a traveler came to the gate. She wore a cloak stitched with constellations, and her voice was soft like paper turning. "Is this where the world started again?" she asked. Kalen, older now, smiled. "No. This is where the world learned to stop ending." She tilted her head. "What's this place called?" He looked at Elian, then said, "Beater. Named not for a god, but for a hope." Epilogue. Years later, children gathered around a fire near the broken gates of old Nairi Valley. A storyteller knelt in the dust. "You want to hear about the boy who carried fire in his veins?" he asked. They nodded, wide-eyed. "He wasn't a hero," he said. "Not at first. He was scared, angry, lost. But he fought gods." One child shouted. "Yes," the storyteller smiled. "But the bravest thing he ever did was forgive one." And as he spoke, in the sky above, the Starborn constellation flared once more. Watching. Not ruling. Just guiding. Chapter 16, The Echo That Never Died. It began with a dream. Elian stood in a hall of mirrors, but none reflected her. Instead, each one showed Kalen older, bearded, tired. In one, he sat atop a throne of roots. In another, he wandered a desert of singing bones. In the last, he was gone. Not dead. Just forgotten. She woke with tears on her cheeks. The world was quiet now. Too quiet. In the 3 years since the fall of Suran's empire, the city of Beater had grown. Not upward, but inward, rooted in storytelling, in shared memory, in peace. Kalen had become a builder. He wore no crown, took no title, spoke rarely of the past. He spent his days helping farmers reroute canals, or repairing roofs lost to wind. When people called him Starborn, he only smiled and said, "Not anymore." But Elian knew better. There were nights she heard him speak names in his sleep. Names of the dead. Names that had never been written. Astray had not returned. Not since that final night. She had left through the gate of threads, a portal only Warden blood could pass. Kalen never said goodbye. He stood atop the northern watchtower that morning, silent as she vanished into star-woven light. Sometimes Elian would ask, "Do you think she still watches?" Kalen would answer, "I hope she's somewhere where she doesn't have to." And then, the echo returned. It started in the bones of the earth, a low hum, like a string plucked beneath the world. Then the dreams. Then the sky. A new star appeared. At first no one noticed. It shimmered dull gold, unmoving, just above the southern horizon. But it never blinked. Never shifted. It just watched. And Elian heard it singing. She brought it to Callan one dawn. He stared at the star for a long time. Then said, "I know that light." "You've seen it?" "No," he whispered. "I've felt it." 2 days later, a traveler arrived at the southern gates. She was sun-scarred, cloaked in feathers and stone, speaking a dialect no one recognized. Her face bore the mark of the gatekeepers, a spiral burned into her palm. She knelt before Callan and Elian and said only 4 words. "The third flame rises." The council gathered that evening. There were no kings, no temples, just elders, survivors, and dreamers. Callan laid out the story as best he could. The gods were not dead, only buried. And somewhere across the Ashwind Sea, a new empire had risen, one not forged in fire, but in memory. They were using forgotten echoes of the Veilborn to wake the third flame. Not divine, not mortal, but something in between. A weapon. And its name was Solinar. The traveler confirmed it. The Solinar had been born from an artificial gate of flame forged, twisted open by mortal hands trying to remake godhood. It was a child. It was a city. It was a hunger. It was moving north. Callan rose from his seat. "I will go." Gasps echoed. "You've done enough," one councilwoman said. "Let others." "No," Elian interrupted. "He's the only one it won't consume." Callan glanced at her. She added softly, "Because it already tried." They left the next day. Callan, Elian, the traveler whose name was Nava, and a dozen volunteers, some warriors, some scholars, some just believers. Before he departed, Callan returned to the cliff where he had once buried the shard. He dug. At the bottom of the pit, untouched by time, it lay. Cracked. Cold. But when he touched it, it pulsed. Once. He whispered to it, "Not again. Not unless there's no other way." And slid it into his satchel. They crossed the Ashwind by skyship, ancient sails, carved with constellations Elian had drawn herself. Below them, dead ocean. No fish. No wave. Just a black mirror stretching forever. And then, on the 5th night, they saw it. A city rising from the sea. Glowing veins ran through its towers, like arteries of a titan. No sun. No fire. Just Solinar awake. Waiting. And it had seen them. Chapter 17, The City That Remembers. The city did not breathe. It hummed. Solinar rose from the black waters like a crown of drowned gods, towers sculpted from polished bone and woven glass, their spires pulsing with soft gold light. There were no doors. No guards. No sky. Just memory. And as Kalen stepped onto the causeway, the stone beneath his boots whispered his name. Kalen Biril. He froze. Elian, standing beside him, heard it too. It's watching us. Nava nodded grimly. This city is watching. It was built to remember everything. Kalen looked up at the central tower, taller than any structure he had ever seen. It shimmered with faces. Familiar ones. Impossible ones. Faces of the dead. They entered the city. No one stopped them. The streets were silent, lined with statues that looked too real. A boy holding a doll. A woman praying. A man staring into the distance. But none blinked. Nava explained, "These are not statues. They are memories. Preserved. Frozen. Each time someone speaks of them, the city replays their final truth." Elian touched one gently, a girl with braids and eyes full of wonder. The statue wept. And behind them, a door opened. Inside the central chamber of Solinar, the rules of reality frayed. Stairs curved into impossible directions. Light bent sound. Every thought Kalen had seemed to echo twice, once aloud, once as if whispered by another version of him. Then, a voice. "You've come late, Kalen." He turned. And saw a stray. But she was different. Her robes shimmered like mirrored glass. Her eyes no longer burned with fire, but with pure stillness, like she had seen eternity and chosen to stay silent. "Elian," Kalen whispered, "don't move." A stray stepped forward. "I am the warden of the last gate now. Beyond this city lies the origin of the flame, before the gods, before the silence. The source." Kalen tightened his grip on the shard. "Why didn't you come back?" "I couldn't," she said. "If I did, I would bring it with me." Elian stepped forward. "Is this city alive?" "Yes," a stray said. "And it's hungry. Not for blood, not for worship, but for stories." Nava frowned. "What do you mean?" "This place is built from memory," a stray explained. "It preserves. It expands. Every tale it collects makes it stronger. That's why it lured you. Why it let you in. Because it wants your story. And it wants her flame." A stray turned to Elian. You are the last key. The only memory the city does not possess. Kalen drew his blade. You're not taking her. But Astray didn't flinch. I'm not here to take. I'm here to warn. She lifted a hand. A wall shimmered into view, a tapestry of light and motion. It showed a future. Kalen crowned by stars. A lion above a burning world. Astray, alone, beneath a closed gate. It showed another. Kalen walking away from the city. A lion crumbling into ash. Astray breaking the sky to stop Solinar from awakening fully. You have one day, she said. One day to choose what memory the world keeps. Kalen asked, and if we don't choose? Astray's voice dropped to a whisper. Then the city will choose for you. That night, Kalen sat beside a glass pond that reflected his past instead of his face. He saw Thra lion. He saw Dido scream from the gate. He saw himself killing Siren. He saw a lion age 7 handing him the broken piece of their mother's scepter. Protect it? It's mine. Behind him, a lion sat cross-legged, writing. What are you doing? He asked. She smiled softly. If the city wants a story, I'm going to give it one. And far above them, in the topmost chamber of Solinar, the core of the city began to pulse. Because something inside it stirred. Not a god. Not a machine. But something older. Something waiting to be remembered. Chapter 18, The Memory That Lies. The gates opened at midnight. They did not creak, or groan, or glow. They simply vanished. Kalen and Elian stood at the edge of a spiraling descent, the heart of Solinar, where the city's deepest stories were buried, and rewritten. Nava warned, once inside, you may not remember who you are. Or what you were. Or each other. Kalen looked to Elian. I'll remember. She smiled faintly. So will I. Then they stepped in. The descent was silent. Not just soundless but soulless. No echo. No sense of distance. Just endless stairs that shifted like liquid stone. Then the light fractured. And they were separated. Kalen fell into a garden of silver flame. It looked like Thra lion but not ruined. Whole. Beautiful. People walked the streets. His mother waved from a balcony. Malric sparred in the courtyard. And at the center, stood Astray, alive, unscarred, holding a child in her arms. Kalen blinked. The child looked just like a lion. Come, Astray said. It's over. You did it? part of him wanted to believe. So badly. But then he turned and saw himself. Standing in the shadows. Cloaked in bone and fire. Whispering, "This is the lie you wanted." Elian wandered an endless library. Each shelf bore a different version of her life. Elian the Queen. Elian the Destroyer. Elian the Forgotten. She touched a book. Suddenly, she was inside it, ruling over an empire of flame, Kalen at her side, thousands bowing. It felt right. She ruled with peace. Justice. But then the skies turned red. And from the crowd rose a child, whose face flickered like Nava. Like a stray. Like herself. The child spoke. "You burned the world to save yourself." And everything turned to ash. Kalen fought the illusion. He swung his blade at the vision of himself, but it vanished into smoke. The garden crumbled. In its place, a battlefield. He saw Astray again but dying. He saw a lion but younger. Crying. And in the center of it all, floating above the flames. Siren. Not dead. Not real. Just a memory. But somehow, speaking. "You remember me too clearly. That's why I can still live." Kalen screamed, slamming the shard into the ground. "Then forget you." And the memory shattered. Elian found herself before a mirror. Inside it, the girl she once was. Age 6. Shivering. "Do you still love him?" the girl asked. "Who?" "Kalen. Your brother. Your sword. Your fire." "Yes," Elian whispered. "Then burn this place down." At the center of Solinar, they found each other again. Barefoot. Bleeding. Breathing. The heart pulsed above them, a massive orb of living light, built from every memory Solinar had stolen. A voice spoke from the core. "Give me your story." Elian stepped forward. "No." "Then you will forget it." Kalen raised the shard. "Then take mine." The shard ignited. The heart screamed. And everything went white. They awoke outside the tower. The city was silent. But not watching. Not humming. Just still. Solinar had no more story to feed on. They had broken the loop. Kalen sat up, gasping. "You remember me?" Elian nodded. "Always." Then turned to Astray, standing in the shadow of the exit. I didn't see you inside. Astray looked away. Because I'm already just a memory. Then she smiled. But some memories choose not to fade. Chapter 19, The Final Convergence. The sky broke at dawn. Not with lightning, but with song. High above the ruins of Solinar, cracks shimmered in the cloud silver lines forming runes older than the flame gate. Wind screamed through empty towers. The city, now memory-starved, began to collapse. And from those fractures, they came. The primordials. Beings that predated the gods. Not born. Not made. Remembered. Kalen, Elian, and Astray stood at the edge of the central crater, watching as 6 titanic shapes descended from the light wings of mist, bodies of thought, faces ever shifting. They did not walk. They wove reality around them. A voice boomed not aloud, but through every cell in every living thing. The last flame has been spent. Elian stepped forward, trembling. Who are you? The sky answered. We are the first song. The last question. The unasked truth. Astray whispered, they were buried before the first flame ever burned. Kalen tightened his grip on the shard. What do they want? One of the titans, Zurath, the pattern weaver, descended lower, speaking through Elian's own lips. The world has run its course. Your flames have burned. Your gods have fallen. Now we offer one choice. Kalen's voice was steel. What choice? Another titan, Lunara, she who remembers all, floated behind them, casting mirrored echoes into the ground. To reset the thread. To unmake this world. To become the first of the next. Or to hold to this fractured reality, and be its final wardens. Everything went still. The choice was real. Elian felt it. The primordials were not offering power. Not trickery. An actual rewriting of the universe. No more Thoralion. No more flame. No more prophecy. Just, reset. Kalen looked at Astray. If we reset, does she stay? Astray shook her head. None of us stay. And if we refuse? We guard what remains. Kalen turned to Elian. We fought for this world, he said. We bled for it. Lost everyone for it. Elian nodded, tearful. But it's broken. I know, he said. Then took her hand. But it's ours. The sky cracked wider. The shard glowed one final time. Astray stepped into the light, standing between the primordials and her friends. "I was the warden," she said. "Let me carry the weight." Zurith replied. "The warden cannot choose. Only the story keepers may." Elian reached for Kalen. Together, they held the shard. Spoke 3 words. "We stay here." The sky went silent. The Titans paused. Then, "So be it." The light collapsed inward. A dome of starlight wrapped around Vidur, around the memories of every battle, every loss, every love. Solinar vanished. But the world did not. Kalen awoke beside a tree. The air was clean. Birds sang. Elian slept nearby, safe. And a stray stood alone, at the edge of a stream, fading. He ran to her. "No," he said. "You're not a memory." She smiled, glowing. "I am now." She kissed his forehead. Then vanished into motes of soft gold. In time, Kalen and Elian rebuilt again. But not as rulers. As keepers. No temples. No gates. Just stories, told by the fire. About a world that almost ended. But didn't. Because 2 people chose to remember. Chapter XX, The Book of Flame. Years passed. Time did not forget Kalen Viral. But he did his best to forget himself. The man who had once held a sword made of stars now held a shovel, building irrigation channels for mountain farmers. The warrior who had faced gods and silence now taught children how to listen for birdsong before a storm. He no longer dreamed of thrones or flames. Only peace. And Elian. She became the first story keeper of Vidur. No longer a flame. No longer a key. Just a young woman with silver-flecked eyes and 1,000 memories, scribbling each one down before they faded. Her stories weren't grand or bloody. They were true. People came from distant isles to hear her speak. And when they left, they remembered not gods, not heroes, but a brother and sister who stayed behind when the world begged them to leave. But Kalen could not sleep. Not truly. Not after what they saw in Solinar. Not after a stray. Her name became a flame in his chest, never burning, but never dying. He would sometimes speak to the stars when Elian was asleep. "If you see her," he'd whisper, "tell her I still hear her songs." One evening, Elian entered his small home in the outer grove, a stack of papers in her arms. "I'm done," she said. Kalen looked up from the fire. "With what?" She handed him the bundle. "The Book of Flame." He read. Page after page. Each chapter was a piece of them. The fall of Thoralion. The Shard. Dido's death. Astray's first healing. The Mirror Queen. The Silence. Solinar. And the Choice. Kaelin's hands trembled as he turned to the last page. There were no words. Only space. Elian smiled. That's for you. He sat by the window all night, quill in hand, fire beside him. And slowly, carefully, Kaelin wrote. We were never meant to save the world. We were meant to remember why it was worth saving. We were born of gods. We walked through flames. But in the end, we stayed. Years later, a boy found a book of flame in the archives of Beater. He dusted it off, opened the first page, and read aloud beneath the dying sun. He smiled. Not because it was about heroes, but because it was about people. And somewhere, in a place beyond time, Astray watched the stars and whispered. He stayed.